Hi, welcome back to another episode of Wilderness Insights 24, organized by the Wilderness and Wildlife Protection Society of Royal College. Today we have with us Mr. Vimukthi Weerathunga, an expert in the field of environmental conservation. Could you please introduce yourself to our audience, sir?
Thank you for having me for the program. And yes, my name is Vimukthi Weerathunga, so I'm a wildlife biologist. I'm a nature photographer and also I'm a diver. So I have so much of experience in the conservation area in Sri Lanka for the past 25 to 30 years.
Yes. Sir, I believe your expertise is in the field of biodiversity and ecosystems?
Mostly, yes. I would say that I have spent a lot of time in the field in terms of looking at the different ecosystems and learning about them and doing some involvement in many research in that sphere. Yes.
Sir, could you please explain to our audience what an ecosystem is?
Well, the ecosystem is in very simple terms, is basically a area or a place where both environmental conditions, flora and fauna combine together and having both physical and chemical interactions and biological interactions. So when a place where all these three elements work together in combination, that's we call it as an ecosystem. So that's the sort of simplest term that you can see. But there are other elements that always combine with it, like the air, the water, and many other chemical parameters also. But that's what the simple explanation of an ecosystem.
Definitely, sir. And Sri Lanka, being an island, is very rich in terms of biodiversity and has many ecosystems, right? If possible, sir, could you explain to our audience the difference and how the ecosystems of the far north differ from the sandy beaches of Galle?
Very good question. So, as an island, as you explained, we are very rich in biodiversity as an island nation. That because of the ecosystem diversity what we have, and within that ecosystem diversity, there are many microhabitat conditions exist. So, in that microhabitat conditions, many species thrive. So, that is why the Sri Lanka has considered one of the biological hotspots in the Asia. If you're really looking at the north, if you walk through Sri Lanka, we can see many main ecosystems. If you go to far north, we can say it's a flat land. It's a shrub land and it's flat. The ecosystem diversity totally based on the rainfall, soil, underlying geology, wind patterns and many things. So, and also there we have rainy seasons also. So that all these factors are connected to increase the diversity of ecosystem diversity of Sri Lanka. So the north is a classic example. When you go to north, it's all flat land and the rainfall is very small. Yes. Annual rainfall is very small. So that it's basically most of the time it's a dry. It's a dry habitat you get, and then you get salt pans, and you get palm-dominated area, a thorny scrub-dominated forest landscape, also a very dry, thorny forest habitats exist in that area. So, and then interspaced with some of the grasslands. Yes. So that diversity, that microhabitat conditions have created very special areas for unique species to thrive. And north is very special. Why? There are a few islands also, offshore islands like Delft is classic example. Manna Island is another example. And there are a few other islands off the coast of Manna between India and Sri Lanka. Those are called sandy islands. Yes. So those are very specialized habitat condition in the far north, which you don't see here in south of Sri Lanka. So that is very unique. So in that specialized habitat conditions, very specialized flora and fauna exist in those habitats. So that's a specialty in the north. So if you come to little further down towards Trincomalee, it's totally different. Yes. We have marine conditions, we have mangrove habitats in Trincomalee area.
Yeah.
So that is very different. And the longest river of Sri Lanka, which is River Mahavali, also goes and falls into the Trincomalee Bay, and that which create very unique marine ecosystem there,
Yeah.
where the largest mammal ever lived on the planet, which is blue whale, come and play around. So that is very unique if you're looking at the northern area in terms of the ecosystem diversity.
Yes, sir. So, if you could, sir, could you please explain to us some of the endemic species? Like you said, that there were unique species living in Sri Lanka. Could you explain to us some of the species who exist in Sri Lanka right now, and if possible, the threats they face?
There are a lot actually. If you're really looking at the endemicity is very high in Sri Lanka. As an island nation, we are separated from Indian mainland for about close to about 10,000 years.
Yes.
So the evolution is slowly taking place. 10,000 years in terms of evolution is a blink of an eye.
Definitely.
But the speciation is we can see that the most of the endemic biodiversity is located in the southwestern part of Sri Lanka and also in the mountains. Whereas when you go to the dry part of the Sri Lanka, which is largest portion of the island, the endemicity is not that high. Whereas the mountains, the central mountains, and we have 3 mountain ranges. One is Central Mountain, Knuckles Mountains, and Rakwana Mountains. So those mountain ranges are somewhat separated now. Must have been connected a long time ago.
Yes.
Now the human interactions has basically separated these 3 mountains. Connectivity has separated. And then the southwestern part of Sri Lanka, where the lowland rainforest habitats do exist. So those are the critical habitats in terms of the endemic biodiversity. So most of the endemic biota, both the small and the large ones, are confined to these habitats. But if you're looking at the large mammals like the bears, elephants and leopards, which most of us are very fond of, but they are not endemic to Sri Lanka.
Yes.
The endemic ones are the small ones. We have 35 species of birds and 90 plus species of amphibians. So the numbers are very high in terms of the land snails. The small ones are very high in Sri Lanka. So but the most critical habitats in terms of the endemicity are the habitats that I have explained, which is the high mountain montane forest, plus the lowland rainforest habitats.
I see, sir. If possible, sir, could you also elaborate on the problems that are faced to these endemic animals at present?
Yeah, the biggest question for us, obviously we all know that the land area is not expanding in Sri Lanka.
That's
very island.
Yes.
So population is increasing. So our need is increasing. So the agricultural lands, the townships, new need for human, everything is within this small piece of land. So that is the biggest challenge. That means the center of our problem is the land management. How do we manage the land that we have? So agriculture is in the forefront, obviously, because we need to feed so many people, and then agriculture areas are expanding. So the main problem here in Sri Lanka is the habitat fragmentation. That means the larger forest areas, large ecosystems, larger habitats that we were talking about, getting smaller and then become small islands, so that the species that are confined into these areas are struggling to survive.
Okay, sir.
You know what I mean? So that's the fundamental problem what we have. Is there a solution for that? Very difficult. Why? The land is not getting enlarged. People are always asking more and more and more land.
Yes, sir.
So that is why it's not that easy. But somehow we need to manage. You need to think to at least to conserve the critical habitat which is in the highland of Sri Lanka and also in the southwestern portion of Sri Lanka. There's another factor on those 2 habitats. Those 2 habitats are playing a key role as a watershed areas. So the watershed is also key for economic development.
Yes, sir.
When there's no water, there's no economic development, there's no life on the planet.
Definitely.
So that is why not only in terms of the biodiversity conservation, but also in terms of the watershed value, these two areas are extremely critical for the conservation of natural resources in Sri Lanka.
Definitely. So, sir, could you also elaborate how forest reserves like Sinharaj help in protecting the endemic fauna and flora of Sri Lanka?
Sinharaj is a classic example of protecting a big chunk of lowland rainforest.
Yes,
That is the only biggest chunk of forest is existing in the lowland with zone forest. It has become a World Heritage now.
Yes, sir.
So that because its endemicity is very high. If you're looking at the plants and animals in Singaraj area, which belongs to the lowland rainforest
Yes.
habitat type, and 80 to 90% of the plants and animals that are living in that forest cannot be found anywhere else on the planet.
True.
So if we lose them from Singaraj, that means they will lose from the face of the planet. So that is the problem that we are facing. Fortunately, the government of Sri Lanka has put up a plan to expand the Singaraj area.
Okay, sir.
So that means in Singaraj there's a peripheral forest, small forest patches. Now they are trying to connect those peripheral forest patches and try to expand the Singaraj area so that the habitat will get expanded a little bit. So that plan, if that plan works, it's going to be a very good positive step towards the conservation of the lowland rainforest habitat, where majority of the plants and animals cannot be found anywhere else in the planet. And that is also important for tourism sector in Sri Lanka, because a lot of people come here, naturalists, people who are interested in enjoying the nature come here to see the endemic plants and animals and bird life and things like that. So that's a economic part of conserving such habitats.
So you said that they're going to expand Singharaja.
Yeah.
Right. So if possible, sir, could you also elaborate on the current strategies employed by the government for environmental conservation?
Well, there are a lot of strategies are there. The national action plans are there. How we manage the national park system is one, which is done by the Department of Wildlife Conservation, and then Department of Forest Conservation. They are managing the forest land. So I think this time the new government has put all the institutions together to work as one big organization to looking at the conservation as one subject. That's a right call.
Definitely.
So then we also need some expertise. From outside the expertise, NGOs, every citizen has a key role to play in terms of conservation. It is not just a role of two, three government agencies. That's not easy.
Yes,
that's not difficult to do. So people also should be aware of what we have, should be aware of what are the values of it, and get connected to the conservation however the way that they can do.
Yes.
There are little things that they can do. Even if you go to and clean a beach, clean a reef, or plant 10, 15 trees in one particular area, that makes a huge difference. So the government has a lot of plans.
Yes.
The national biodiversity strategy is there. Forest action plans are there. So, but it's all scientific based programs, and results are, you can't see the results overnight.
Yes.
That's the problem of conservation.
Yes.
Classic example is if you're looking at the neighboring country India, there were a lot of problems with the tigers. They took a plan, planned out everything in 1972. 50 years later, they see the positive results.
Yes.
So that's how it is. But if you put good plans, and then the results will come, maybe not within our lifetime, maybe next generation.
In your expert opinion, sir, what should Sri Lanka's research priorities be for sustainability of our habitats?
Well, the research priorities are, obviously we need to look at the marine side.
Yes.
That is number one. That is something, Sri Lanka has a, larger marine area
Definitely.
belongs to Sri Lanka. So the marine research takes a long time, and then we need to look at the large mammals, dolphins, fish stocks, and things like that, because those are all connected to the economy as well.
Yes.
So that area is there's a huge lack of research gap in marine realm. In terms of the terrestrial part of ecosystems, there are a lot of good studies have been done. You know, the elephant work has been done, long-term elephant programs have been done, amphibians programs, freshwater fish. So a lot of things have done. So what we need to do is basically bring that research knowledge
Yes.
into the management and see how we can sustainably manage these areas. So that's the part we need to work on. The research is, the data gap was there 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago. If you really looking at the data gap was much wider. Today the data gap is not that big, but the lacking part is the link between the research and the management part of it. So the management part, of course, the political side also should get involved in terms of the conducting, taking the right call in terms of the managing these critical habitats, and also to support the scientific base decision making. So that's the key word for conservation.
Definitely, sir. So while the experts focus on the bigger details, can you also explain how our local communities as well as our students can also help in protecting this biodiversity and as well as Sri Lanka's ecosystems?
Very good question. You can start from your backyard. You just look at what are the local ecosystems that are existing, right? Even if you are living in heart of Colombo, you walk few kilometers to any direction, you will find some pristine habitats. That's the beauty of Sri Lanka. Right? Even if heart of Colombo, there are nice birding areas, nice mangrove habitats, beautiful wetlands, right? Because the Colombo is located within the Kalani river floodplain.
Yes.
So the habitats are there. So what we can do is basically go and learn things and care about it. So that's a simple part of it. Otherwise, if you don't care anything, if you don't love about anything, you don't tend to conserve them.
Yes,
so basically, you have to learn what is there and why should we care and how it is, and bring some more and more people towards the same goal. So you don't have to do a million things. You just go and see what are the wetlands that are existing, what can you do, and go and talk to the authorities or school groups, and link them with the small activities, so that these things will get bigger. Definitely. So the small, you have to plant a seedling so that it will become a tree. It's like that.
Yes.
So you have to start something small so that it will generate some positive impact later on in the future.
If possible, sir, could you give us some of the expert insights to our audience as well, as sort of a parting, a few parting words if possible.
Few
parting words if possible for them to remember.
No, I think the number one is Sri Lanka is absolutely unique in terms of its beauty and its biodiversity. You have to learn it, and then you have to understand what it is, and you have to enjoy the beauty of it. Then you tend to embrace their beauty, and in turn you will be part of the conservation program as a whole. So that's the message that I can send. Obviously, the responsibility is yours. It's not, my generation has not done much, I guess so. But I think the next generation has a bigger role to play, bigger challenges. My generation didn't have loads of challenges because the problem was not that critical.
Yes.
But today it's getting more and more difficult. So that the science and the actions must take at the right time. Otherwise, we are going to lose the opportunity.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your time, sir. I hope
Thank you very
we'll be
much.
able to talk to you.
Thank you.
And with that, the next episode of Wilderness Insights 24 organized by the Wilderness and Wildlife Protection Society of Royal College, comes to an end. Stay tuned for the latest.